Hi, Tara Whitney from Whitney Consulting. We write grants, tenders, and business cases to get funding for organisations. Today, I want to talk about the Cooperative Research Centre Projects grant. This one is for industry-led projects, so anything that is led by industry, by an SME, a small to medium enterprise, that is going to partner with researchers, industry, the community. What they're wanting to do is they're wanting to link researchers with industry to focus on research and development to solve industry problems and then commercialise those. So the aim of this particular grant is to improve the competitiveness, the productivity, the sustainability of Australian industries to make sure there's high quality research happening to solve industry identified problems. Now, there are two of these kind of grants. So there's the CRC grants, the Cooperative Research Centre grants, and they're for medium to long term. But the one that's open I'm talking to you about today is the Cooperative Research Centre Projects grants to support the short term, meaning up to a maximum of 3 years, research projects. Now, the CRC-P is open now. It's open to applications from any industry sectors, but I will let you know that there is a focus on some government priorities. There's quite a lot though, so you probably fit in, but you should have a look and you should tailor your application when you're writing it to those priorities. So the priorities that they're looking at are the National Artificial Intelligence Plan, so AI, the National Reconstruction Fund. Now the NRF has priorities which are resources, critical minerals resources, agriculture, forestry and fisheries, transport, medical science, renewables and low emission technologies, defence and enabling capabilities, which has a list that you can have a look at, but things like AI, advanced manufacturing, robotics, etc. And then the last of the priority ones is the national science and research priorities. And their priorities are transitioning to a net zero future, supporting healthy and thriving communities, elevating Aboriginal and Torres Strait Island knowledge systems, protecting and restoring Australia's environment, and building a secure and resilient nation. So pretty broad in some ways. The other thing you need to know about this particular round, usually they spend about 30 to 50 million in grants, for each round. It does vary, but this particular round, as part of that National AI Plan focus, they are having an AI accelerator within this grant of up to $20 million. And that is basically, they're wanting to allocate that amount of funding to focus on projects, to give to projects that develop or enhance AI systems and technologies, particularly in areas such as healthcare, agriculture, resources and energy, and advanced manufacturing. So have a look at the guidelines, and they have links in the guidelines to each of the plans, the National AI Plan, the National Reconstruction Fund, and the National Science and Research Priorities. Have a look, make sure that you are within one of those priority areas. You can argue you're in one of those priority areas, and then in your application, refer to how you meet those priorities as well, or how your project meets those priorities. So as I said, there's usually around 30 to 50 that's spent each round. The round is open at the moment. The minimum grant is 100,000, and they provide up to 3 million. You have to be a really good application to get the 3 million, and you can only ask for 50% of the total budget. Who can apply? Only SMEs can apply, so you must have less than 200 employees. You can't be a sole trader though, and you can't be a partnership entity. So you must be an SME, but you must be in partnership. You must have project partners that include at least another second Australian industry entity. So you might be an SME and you might partner with a bigger organisation or industry or some other industry bodies. And you also need an Australian research organisation. You can have more partners, and more partners is good, but you have to at least have those two partners, and you yourself, the applicant, must be an SME. All partners must make a cash or in-kind contribution, not for the whole project, but they do have to make some kind of cash or in-kind contribution to the project. Some of the things that you can spend the money on, that they're expecting you to spend the money on: new research, obviously, proof of concept, anything to prove up the concept you've got, Any pre-commercialisation activities, pre-commercial of research outcomes. So you've done some research and you're wanting to get it to commercialisation stage. Industry-focused education and training. So things like internships, secondments between industry entities or the research organisation themselves. Conferences, workshops, symposia related to the joint research that you're doing, and information sharing. Obviously, they want to extend the information, so information sharing, communication initiatives related to the research that you're doing. The timing, the grant closes on the 12th of May, and the maximum project period is 3 years that you can do. Now, tips on this particular grant. It's cooperative research. So the focus has got to be on cooperating and partners, and that can be complex and time consuming to get your application ready. So many times there's a fantastic project that you've got in mind, but the time it takes to really form up the partnerships can be a problem when you're getting your application in. So I highly encourage you, if you have not already, many of you hopefully have already, but if you haven't, you really need to get those partners on board ASAP, but not just conceptually, not just okay, yeah, we're keen. You need to bed down the details. So you need to actually speak to those partners and define exactly what roles each of the partners will undertake, exactly what each of the partners will contribute to the project, and the governance around it. How are you going to govern all of these partners? There's at least 3 of you. How are you going to frame that? How are you going to make decisions? Are you going to have weekly, monthly meetings? What are we doing here? We need to have an understanding as to how decisions are going to be made. What if you disagree? All of that governance aspect is really important for you to determine, because it is quite complex managing those different partnerships. And it comes across in the application if that hasn't been decided, determined. And certainly in the letters of support, you've really got to detail exactly what everyone is contributing, because they have to contribute something. And if you don't evidence it in those letters, then the assessors are not going to see that this is a solid partnership, which is exactly what they're wanting to fund. The other thing is you really need to make sure it's super clear what the problem is. What is this industry problem? And prove that it's not just your problem. It's not just your business that has this problem. It is industry that has this problem. So get that support from industry to show that this is a problem. As always, if you need any help writing your application, please contact us. We will be glad to help at whitneyconsulting.com.au. Whitney, Whitney. Thanks a lot. Bye.